Good evening. My name is Alan Cass, the president of the League of Women Voters of White Plains. On behalf of the White Plains League of Women Voters, we welcome you to the 2025 White Plains School Board Candidate Forum. First, I'd like to introduce the candidates. Ms. Cheryl Brady, Dr. Mohammed Chaudhry, Mr. Charles Norris, and Ms. Julia Oliva. Our moderator tonight is Sheila Miller Burnson. Our timekeepers, Barbara Shore and Meyer Barmicha. And our White Plains High School student presenter is Lance Anthony. Since 1920, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots political organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We have fought for election protection and equal access to the ballot, all while maintaining our commitment to nonpartisanship and fostering an informed electorate. In addition to registering voters, the League empowers voters and defends democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation in local, county, state, and national levels. The League does not support or oppose candidates or political parties. Your local league is made up of volunteers who devote their time and energy. Your participation and assistance would be welcomed. Your financial contributions would also be welcomed. The League is fully committed to ensure compliance in principle and in practice with the National League's diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. Membership is open to everyone 16 years of age or older. For more information about how to join or donate to your local league, visit us at lwvwp.org. Now let's review the video recording policy for tonight. Tonight's candidate forum will be recorded by the White Plains Public School Media for rebroadcasting on Optimum Channel 77 and Verizon Channel 46. It will also be available for subsequent viewing on the League of Women Voters White Plains website, lwvw.org, and the White Plains Public Schools website. Only the videographer authorized by the League may record this event. Under no circumstances may anyone else record the proceedings, and we request that you silence all cell phones and do not use them or any other camera to record or take pictures of the candidate forum. Any authorized use of the recording requires the advance approval of the League of Women Voters of White Plains. Only licensed media, including TV, radio, and newspapers, are entitled by FCC regulations to air portions of this recording. Why do I feel like we're about to take off? Holy cow. Anyone else who broadcasts or streams this recording must do so in its entirety, and this is to ensure that the content of the event is not manipulated in any way to create false or misleading impressions. Now I'd like to introduce our White Plains High School student presenter, Lance Anthony.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lance Anthony, and I'm a senior at White Plains High School. My experience with the League has been nothing short of empowering. Attending the Students Inside Albany conference last year, I was fortunate to receive what I like to call a front row seat to New York State democracy, where I both learned the basics of lobbying and saw the bill I lobbied pass right before my eyes. Conversing with diverse advocates from across the state, I learned the importance of bipartisan discussion to tackle polarized issues and ensure the fair democracy our nation strives for. And this newfound passion inspired me to conduct my research over the next year on voter ID laws and racial minorities, through which I hope to uphold the League's principle of nonpartisanship and alleviate the polarization surrounding the issue. In a world so divided and driven by assumptions, the League taught me that the future isn't something we inherit, it's something we shape, and democracy is the tool we use to do that. I'm forever grateful for everything the League has given me, and I look forward to continuing those ideals, promoting a world where disagreement does not equal division and where humanity always wins. Thank you.
You're on.
Thank you, Lance. Our future is in good hands.
Yes.
What a wonderful, and he gave a wonderful testament to Students Inside Albany, which is a league program where one or two students from each league town applies and is chosen to spend 4 days in Albany, visiting their legislator, learning about state government, and it's a fabulous, fabulous program. And if you feel like contributing, your money could definitely go there because it is expensive, but it's a wonderful thing that the league offers the youth of New York State. Now I've got to get to my my opening statement, my statement. So my name is Sheila Miller Bernstein, and I'd like to first of all say that this is the league's favorite kind of election, a contested one. Is the mic good? Yes. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in our democratic system of elections and for stepping up to serve your local community. It's my pleasure to be here to moderate this candidate forum for the White Plains School Board. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Board of the League of Women Voters of Newcastle, and I'm a former board member of the League of the Women Voters of New York State. I live in Armonk and am not in your school district. And I also want to welcome our live audience here and our audience watching live stream out there somewhere, and the audience who will look at this after the fact. There are 4 candidates running for a 3-year term for 2 spots on the White Plains School Board. And I'm going to mention them in order of how they're sitting. Mr. Charlie Norris, Ms. Cheryl Brady, Mr. Dr. Mohammed Chowdhury, and Julia Oliva. But during the forum, we've agreed ahead of time to refer to all candidates by their given first name. It's a little informal, but it's a lot easier. I will now go over the candidates who know all about the format and ground rules, but I want to tell all of you about it. We have agreed to refer to the candidates by their first names. I've already said that. And the format is as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. The candidates drew lots before the forum to determine the order of opening statements, and they are sitting here left to right, your left to right. And the questioning will also begin with Charlie, because he drew the first for opening, and the closing will be given in reverse order. And each candidate will have 1 minute for the questions, 1 minute to answer questions, and 1 minute for their closing, okay? And following the opening statements is the question and answer portion, kind of the meat of the evening. Questions were submitted online by community members no later than 5 p.m. on Wednesday, April 30th. The questions were then vetted by a committee of White Plains League members, and in some cases combined to avoid redundancy. No questions of a personal nature were permitted, and the audience will not be able to submit questions during the forum. The candidates have not seen the questions ahead of this forum, and in addition, please save your applause for the end of the forum. No applause or comments during this evening's proceedings. The opening question, in other words, the first question, is not from the community, but from the League of Women Voters of White Plains. In some instances, the candidates will not use the full 1 minute allotted to their question, and this should not be considered as either a positive or a negative reflection. And then each candidate also has 2 rebuttals that she or she may use during the Q&A portion and the closing statement portion. Each candidate is allowed a maximum of 30 seconds for each rebuttal. Candidates will raise their hand to indicate a rebuttal, and there are no rebuttals to the rebuttal. The rebuttal is that's it. And I'm now going to tell you about the ground rules, which, like the format, have been reviewed by the candidates ahead of time. Throughout the forum, comments of a personal or abusive nations will be shut down by me. I will just say, please be quiet, or please we'll move on. The timekeepers, right here sitting in front, will show a sign to the candidates when 30 seconds is remaining, and again show a sign when it's time to stop. Candidates may finish their sentence, but otherwise may not go beyond the stop. Candidates may not use text messaging, email, social media, or any other form of electronic communication to or from others during the forum. Candidates may not be coached or receive informational messages either. No campaign materials may be used during the forum or be exhibited in this room. Let's see. Now, we're going to begin with the opening statements, and they are going to be given in the order of Miss Charlie will go first, and then Cheryl, and then Salim, and then Julia. You're on. You have 2 minutes. That's right.
Good evening to everyone here. Good evening to everyone at home. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and I want to thank all of my fellow candidates for participating in this. This is democracy. So I have loved the White Plains City School District since 1974 when I met a person who's sitting over there. Ultimately, she became my wife, and when we walked our daughter into school in 1993, she said PTA is not just for moms. So I started a men's group at MAS and eventually became the first ever male PTA president. I grew up with a father who's an educator. Public education is my passion. It is the thing that's supposed to lift all boats, to give everyone an opportunity. And since I've known White Plains City School District all of these years, it has been a beacon. It has been a beacon for the residents. It's been a beacon around the state. It's been a beacon nationally. We are a diverse school district, and we're proud of who we are, and we look to unlock all 7,000 of our kids. Now, it's interesting that last night, and Lance and Mr. Cass all used the word democracy this evening. So last night at the Board of Ed meeting, Dr. Joseph Ricca said that public education is a cornerstone of our democracy. And I'm running again with all the passion that I have and I've always had, because this time I think that not only our democracy, but that public education is under attack. And we must preserve what we have, we must go forward, and we must be White Plains. Thank you.
Cheryl.
When I was in middle school, I set an unusual future goal to become a school board member. I had a friend whose dad was a member of the school board in Valhalla, where I went to public school. I thought it a noble calling even then, and I'm now completing my 6th term as a member of the White Plains Board of Education. I love the White Plains Public Schools, and I'm passionate about public education's potential and imperative to be a great equalizer for children, its paths to opportunity, and its development of citizens to contribute to the public good. As an 18-year veteran of our school board, with 30 years of dedicated volunteer service to this district, I'm committed to this ongoing work and bring knowledge, experience, and a unique perspective, which is why I'm seeking re-election for a 7th term. I've always been involved in education, as a student and lifelong learner, as a college professor, and in my current roles as an administrator in an international education consultancy company and religious school teacher. Devotion to continuous improvement and maximizing our students' potentials are hallmarks of this current board's efforts. I seek opportunities to enhance my effectiveness through numerous board professional development activities, including selection to the Education Policy Fellowship Program through Columbia Teachers College, and this current year, the only school board member invited to serve as a senior fellow of the Advanced Education Policy Leadership Program. My elections to both the Southern Westchester BOCES Board of Education and the New York State School Boards Association Board of Directors have increased my access to regional, statewide, and national school board forums, conferences, and advocacy initiatives, broadening and deepening my impact on the White Plains schools. With your support, it will be my honor to continue my positive impact on our district's critically important work. My track record, work ethic, and commitment to our district and to our students and to our community provide the assurance that I will always give my all to move the White Plains schools forward.
Thank you. Salim?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Mohammed Salim Chowdhury, and I am a privileged member as well as a resident of White Plains Schools. I've had the beautiful honor of having the school district show me how great school can be for my son for the past 18 years. He actually graduated last year, and I have nothing bad to say about the school district. From the beginning, Rob Janowitz, Gene Berger, all the way through Mr. Martinez here in the White Plains School and the high school here. I have had wonderful experience after wonderful experience showing that this school district is not just here, it's a destination. I want to make sure I can maintain that and continue to grow in the ever-facing changing of our demographics. There's lots of things we have to face. There's lots of changes, as Charlie alluded to, that we have to do to make sure education is paramount, because that is our future. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Julia Oliva, and I have been a resident of White Plains since 2007. My husband and I have two daughters, a second grader at Church Street and a 4-year-old who will be entering kindergarten in fall 2026. I have close to 20 years of experience in grant development implementation, including the management of large-scale budgets. The combination of my professional experience and love for the White Plains community would make me an asset to the school board. One of the primary reasons I am running for the board is the findings from the recent evaluation of the district's special education program. As a parent to a child who receives services through the district's Committee on Preschool Special Education, I see firsthand how crucial her teacher's feedback is for ensuring she is continually thriving. After reading the evaluation and when speaking with some teachers and parents, I am concerned about some of the findings, particularly around teachers' feedback not being consistently taken into account and parents not receiving regular communication about their child's progress and/or changes to their service providers. If elected, one of my priorities will be to require the post-evaluation action plan that is currently in development ensures that teacher feedback is always taken into account, including placement recommendations, and that communication with parents is drastically improved. As a parent who has a connection to this firsthand, I genuinely care about making these improvements happen. I also believe inefficient communication permeates the district across many areas. And if elected, I intend to work toward eliminating the silos between the district's administration, including the current Board of Education, and the community, especially as it pertains to the district's budget and overall decision-making, such as changing a school start time, despite a survey finding that 54% of the school's families said a time change would have a highly negative impact. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now we begin with the first question, which is from the League of Women Voters of White Plains, and we will start with Charlie. On July 1, 2025, a bill introduced by our state senator, Shelley Mayer, will take effect. It will require every school district and BOCES board in the state to have at least one non-voting student representative. As a board member, what do you believe this student representative's role should be?
Sure. So we've had two ex officio student school board members for the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years. They've been wonderful. What they do is they provide insight and reports as to what's going on in the schools. So their feedback is really welcome. They're boots on the ground, so they tell us what's going on in the elementary schools, in the middle schools, in the high schools. So we're already ahead of the game in that regard.
Thank you. Cheryl.
So, as Charlie said, and I think it's even been 3 or 4 years that we have been ahead of the curve in having student school board members. They are ex officio, and in fact, Shelley Mayer's bill will require that the students be ex officio. There's actually now student school board members all over the state, and every school board, local and BOCES, will have them as well. And there's a national organization, there's a state organization. We are thrilled with our student members. We meet with them actually every month, 1 or 2 of the board members, to talk to them about their responsibilities, about their roles. It is a civics education for our students. It's such a fabulous experience for them to gain experience in community engagement, civics engagement, and what we hope is that they will themselves run for school board at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Salim?
Well, I think that reflects, again, how White Plains is a leader, not necessarily a follower. If we're already having individuals who are, as Charlie mentions, boots on the ground, that reflects how we may come from a different aspect, from a different angle. But when people arrive, let's say, in the schools, they're living in White Plains itself, when you have members who are not necessarily affiliated with any board, that shows you how they reflect the values and the requests of the people themselves. The board, whoever sits on the board, should be reflecting what the people want, what the parents want. And as was mentioned also before, as a parent, you want to have a reflection of what your students need as well as what everyone needs. And that is important to indicate.
Thank you. Julia?
I agree with everyone else talking about how White Plains has been ahead of the curve. I think that's fantastic, and I think it definitely should be celebrated. I would like to see a little more integration, if it's not already happening, of the student who is involved in this way, being a part of critical meetings. They should be a part of the budget committee meetings. They should be a part of difficult conversations. I think if we show them a surface level view of being on the board and what that's about, you're doing them a disservice. So I think there should be no barriers to what they see and what they're a part of. I also think, as Charlie noted, and I agree, their feedback is instrumental and should be regularly asked. I also think they should be used as a conduit to encourage other students to come to meetings and get involved.
Thank you. Second question, and we're going to begin with Cheryl. How does the national climate towards diversity and inclusion impact education in the White Plains schools?
We are committed in our district to inclusion. We create a welcoming environment for every single student here, and we are governed by New York State law. So whether federal initiatives or executive orders may say otherwise, in fact, state education law, human rights laws in New York State govern the way we function here. We are committed to every single student. We are committed to have every student feel that they are belong, that they are valued, and that they are part of our community. And we are a no place for hate in our high school. We bring in organizations and groups to talk to our students about inclusion, about belonging, and we ensure that every student, for example, has a valued adult that they can work with. Every student here feels valued and included.
Thank you. Salim?
Can you repeat the question exactly?
How does the national climate towards diversity and inclusion impact education in the White Plains schools?
I think diversity is our strength. I think that's the beauty of White Plains. Whether national legislation may try to dictate otherwise, we'll still lead the way, because diversity is one of the beautiful things that indicates to us that we actually have a bright future. Inclusion, having people being a part of the school district is actually paramount, again, to make sure when you see people like Lance give a wonderful speech, you know we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia?
I think it's paramount and essential to our students' experience to be in a diverse environment. It is the reason why my husband and I continue to be here, because we want our children going to diverse schools. What I would like to see, I know that there is the whole kind of, we don't tolerate anything, we don't allow for it, but I do feel at times, I've heard that sometimes there are situations where perhaps issues of intolerance have not been taken as seriously as they should be. And I think what we need to do is really take every issue seriously if a parent reaches out to the superintendent or the Board of Ed, and really look into it and make sure that our students are safe.
Thank you. Charlie?
As Cheryl mentioned, we were recently noted again as being no place for hate, our high school. Since I've known this district, it has been a welcoming place. It's been a diverse place. We are a small city school district. That's who we are. And it's our obligation to educate, both in classrooms and SEL, social emotional learning, of all the kids that walk into our doors. We have to welcome them. They're our kids, and we have to make them feel good about who they are and help them on their journey along the way. So, and as my kids will tell you who graduated from here, they welcome the opportunity to go to a school district like this. It helped them prepare for the world that's out there. It's a diverse place, and that's who we are, and that's who we are going to be.
Thank you. This is the next question. We're going to begin with Salim. To what extent do you think this year's proposed school budget supports your priorities for the White Plains schools?
The White Plains School District budget reflects a lot of what I would like to do, because again, with my son being a product of the school district, it shows there were lots of after-school activities, sports, organizations that he can participate in based on what he likes. Whether it's academic, athletic, or otherwise, the budget continues to ever change and evolve, basically reflecting the fact that it's an ever-changing school district, but it continues to lead the way as far as schools can be. Thank you.
Julia?
When the budget was presented, I continually heard it being said that it's a fiscally responsible budget. And while I think that's important, is it a humanly responsible budget? I'm not so sure about that. First and foremost, the change to Church Street start time is going to have a hugely detrimental effect to the families and children of Church Street. You probably won't hear about it because parents are resilient, guardians, parents, and we'll take care of it and we'll do what we need to do, but it won't be without sacrifice and it won't be without hardship. I also think we need to reassess how we're spending money on some of our capital projects. Are we putting them ahead of the needs of our children and of what's actually happening in the classroom? I think we are, and I think that needs to be looked at.
Thank you. Charlie?
So I'm very proud of the budget, and I'm very proud of the budgeting process that we have. Under Ann Vaccaro-Teich, Dr. Joe Ricca, and leadership of the board, we look down the road and we make sure that our budgets are sustainable and that they're reasonable, and we brought in a 1.67% increase over last year, which is well below the tax cap. It funds all program that we want to achieve and that we want to continue to grow here in White Plains. And at the same time, we're able to use dollars that we have in savings and grants for our capital projects so that they won't affect program and that they won't affect the tax levy on the voters. So it's a reasonable and a responsible budget. It's a fiscally responsible budget that delivers all program to our kids, and we can still build the new wing or build the new building at the high school without affecting the tax levy. So thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I, too, am very proud of the budget that we've been put forth by the board and by the administration. It starts at the grassroots level, from the ground up, different buildings, teachers, staff, administrators contribute to what they would like to see in the budget, and it works its way up, eventually going to the administration and the Board of Education. We are going to be funding CTE. We have our new 50,000 square foot building going up. We have lots of new courses. If you read, you will be so impressed with the budget and what it includes, the support for our students, our operations, our facilities. We are committed to continuous improvement in this school district, and our budget reflects our priorities in a fiscally responsible way. We promised the taxpayers when we were doing our new capital project that it would not result in increased debt, and it doesn't.
Thank you. So the next question, we're going to begin with Julia. In addition to formal school board meetings, how will you ensure that community members will be able to communicate with you about school issues that are important to them?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'll respond to emails. That doesn't happen now. So that's something that I promise that I will do. When I receive emails, I promise to respond with more than just an acknowledgement of receipt. I'll respond to all emails. I also think the board needs to designate somebody on the board to be a community liaison and be responsible for ongoing communication and making sure that everybody feels comfortable reaching out and receives a response, whether it's staff members or the community. I don't think that's happening right now, and I think that needs to drastically change.
Thank you. Charlie?
So it's been a policy of mine since I've been on the Board of Education. If anybody stands up at the public comment period, I turn my chair and I face them because I really want to hear what they're saying, acknowledge what they're saying. But anybody who knows me, I'm out and about in the community. I was known as the runner. I was a marathoner. People know me. I shop here. I go to all the businesses here, and I visit the schools. I just spent a weekend with students in the SEED program. I went away with them for the weekend. So I'm involved with the students. I'm involved with the teachers. I work from home, so I'm able to be visible in the schools and visible to families. They could just call me Charlie, and they know how to get in touch with me, and that's who I am.
Thank you. Cheryl?
So I do respond to emails. I do respond to phone calls. I attend tons of school district activities. I go to PTA meetings. I go to plays, I go to concerts, I attend math nights, literature nights, reading nights. Those are all engaging with our community and with the public and with families. We, in fact, hosted a coffee at Pomplamoose. We had an ice cream get-together at Ice Cream Social. So we are very visible. Sometimes we're in the supermarket and we're talking to people. I serve on district-wide committees, which involve parents as well and community members. We have community members on our strategic planning committee. So there are many opportunities for our public, for our community, for parents, for families to engage with board members, and we are very responsive.
Thank you. Salim?
I think having more back-to-school nights, for example, at the elementary level, engages a lot of parents when their children are in the K-5 level. That sets the tone for the parents when they become involved, when they become middle schoolers or high schoolers. Having White Plains meetings in the downtown area, like she just mentioned, Pamplemousse, 16 Handles, ice cream socials, these are things that are just the beginning. The more you get out there, the more people are going to respond to you. People will see you at different forums based on what they're comfortable with. So we continue to do what we do best, and we will continue to succeed.
Thank you. So the next question, we begin with Charlie. Nationally and in New York State, increased attention is being placed on opportunities for various paths to graduation, including vocational education. How do you think the White Plains School District is doing at balancing vocational and academic programs?
Well, that's a great question. So we have done pretty well. There was a trend across the nation and a trend across New York State that sort of said that everyone should be going to college, which is not necessarily true, and that vocational education was sort of pushed to the wayside. We send kids to BOCES, so there's programs there. But that hole in the ground over here will shortly be a 50,000 square foot building that's all about innovation and vocation. There'll be dance studios, new arts programs. There'll be a culinary institute, horticulture. We acknowledge that to unlock all of our kids, we need to provide opportunities for all the kids, not just for going to college. So again, we are ahead of the game.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I was very excited when the White Plains City School District partnered with Southern Westchester BOCES. I'm on both boards, and it is a fabulous collaboration. As Charlie said, this 50,000 square foot building is in fact going to house CTE programs through collaboration with BOCES, including cybersecurity, health, and culinary careers. We send kids to BOCES already. In fact, we increased the number of kids who could have spaces at our BOCES. It used to be that we would talk about college and career ready. We now talk about career ready because college is included. And we also find that students, they're not silos. Students can participate in both CTE programs and go off to college and actually stand out in many ways. New York State had a Blue Ribbon Commission, Portrait of a Graduate, and those will all include, in fact, CTE.
Thank you. Salim?
I think the emphasis on different paths to education goes back to what I was saying before, how we meet the challenges of the future. Our kids are definitely a different generation from us, and we have to be sensitive and aware of that. That being said, again, having different avenues for graduation, integrating, let's say, Rochambeau School with the White Plains High School, things of that nature will be only important because that reflects how we understand how each individual has something to contribute for their future. No one will be left behind.
Thank you. Julia?
Having worked at a community college for close to 9 years, I'm a huge proponent of career and technical education, and I'm happy to see that White Plains is taking it seriously. With that said, I hope that they are, and my hope is that they're continuing to keep a focus on other students and the programming that is not related to that. I do have some concerns about balancing that, and I'd really like to hear how that's happening. I also do wonder if perhaps we gotten a little too deep with building something so large. Was that necessary? Did we explore other options, potentially reaching out to Westchester Community College and partnering with them? I'm not so sure we needed to pump so much money into building something on our own.
Thank you. The next question, we begin with Cheryl. And this is the question. Nationally and in New York's, how does and to what extent should the school district engage in ongoing planning and collaboration with the city of White Plains?
So in fact, we do collaborate. We work with White Plains. We have a very good relationship with the Common Council, with the mayor. We're aware of the different building projects that are going on. You will see the mayor at our National Honor Society inductions, at our National Junior Honor Society inductions. In fact, the mayor's children, current mayor's children, went to our schools. And we really do work with the city. We have shared services. There's a synergy in terms of sharing services, in having, for example, Little League, using our facilities. We have our community members in White Plains who have use of our facilities as well. So it really is a synergistic relationship between the city and the school district.
Thank you. Salim?
That old saying of no one is an island unto themselves is really what's important here. We should always be involved with the city itself. White Plains City and the White Plains School District should be connected, intertwined, and should not be able to live aside from each other. I have the privilege of being also on the White Plains Public Safety Advisory Board, and that I think brings a different, unique angle to the school board. When you have different people from different avenues bringing up different concerns, people who, let's say, live in the Church Street area versus who live in the Rosedale area versus living in downtown White Plains. When you have different people from diverse areas in our big city, that only continues to show us our strength. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia?
I agree. I think the city and the school district need to be working hand in hand. They should be collaborating regularly. Each area should know what the other is doing at all times. I'm happy to hear that that seems to be happening. I think that needs to continue to happen. I think we're at the precipice of a lot of changes here. I'm hoping very good changes with a new mayor coming in this fall. So I think the school district only needs to dig in deeper and make sure that they're working very closely with the city.
Thank you. Charlie?
There has always existed and continues to exist a close relationship between the school district and the city. It must be remembered that these are two different taxing authorities. So they handle different things. So services are handled by the city, the roads are handled by the city, we educate the kids. But we work together to try to be as efficient as possible, to help each other out. I mean, these buildings, particularly the high school, is always in use for meetings by public groups and other organizations. So we will continue to do that. That's kind of the nature of what White Plains has always been.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to begin with Salim. And this is the question: what challenges and opportunities do you think ongoing development in White Plains will mean for the White Plains schools?
The challenges on a basic level indicates that there might be more residences, more people living here, whether it's been an influx of individuals over the last 10 or 15 years, or whether there's more residences and high-rises going on in downtown White Plains, which will bring more children to our school districts. We have to meet those needs and those concerns starting from the elementary level. When you have teachers, for example, let me backtrack for a second. When my son went to elementary school, I think there was a teaching assistant that bounced around between the 3 or 4 classes. There were different teachers, but only one assistant. Now we have an assistant, I believe, in every classroom. That's going to be a reflection of how important it is to make sure we meet the demands of the number of kids who are here in this great city of ours.
Thank you. Julia?
Kind of a similar feeling about that. I do think that it could lead to more students coming into our schools, which is definitely not a bad thing, but it could lead to our class sizes, our ratios going up, which I don't think any of us would be very happy with. I also think we really need to take this opportunity to look at bringing back the Newcomer Center. I know that this has been a hot topic for a while since it was eliminated. You're going to have students rolling in potentially, and we need to make sure that they are welcomed on an ongoing basis. And I would, if maybe it is coming back, I'm not aware of it as a community member, I'd like to be. But and I'm seeing people mouth that we have it. I, as a parent, don't know about it. So I would like to see more information about it be made available.
Thank you. Charlie?
The newcomers standard continues to exist at this time. So right now, there are about 10,000 to 12,000 units being developed in White Plains. And of course, the school district has nothing to do with with the approvals of that. But we work closely with demographers. And if you look at the school district's website, if you look at the budget that was presented for this year, there's charts and graphs in there that show projections of where the population is expected to go over the next, I think, up to 10 years, and it's flat. So what we're being told by the demographers and the experts is that these 10 to 12,000 units will not significantly or substantially impact the school district population.
Thank you. Cheryl?
So I think that there are some exciting opportunities when we have new development in the city. We have to obviously be very careful about new development and look at it and be discerning. But it brings new blood, it brings excitement into the community, it brings vibrancy. And as Charlie said, we do have demographic studies that are done every year by Western Suffolk BOCES, and that those graphs really are pretty flat. As we look ahead. And we do facilities studies every single year, and we have actually engaged in a study, it was a few years ago, where we looked at every single building, the square footage, how many students we expected to be there, what we had room for. One of the reasons we are building the new building, the new extension of the high school, is to house some of these new programs. And new building brings new people who may be working in our schools as well, which is exciting.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to begin with Julia. In light of the book challenges and bans happening across the country, what do you see as your role as a board member in determining which books and other curriculum materials students should have access to? What would your criteria be in making these decisions?
I think first and foremost, as a board member, my role would be to communicate directly with the families, whether that's parents or guardians, to see what they were comfortable with. Do I believe in outright banning books? No, but I believe in respecting parents' wishes around what their children have access to. So I'd want to sit down with families and hear from them firsthand what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. I think from there, we then need to work with the schools to figure out what books should be out and available to all students at all times, and what we should have behind the desk and require that they get permission to get. I think we all have our personal viewpoints, but we need to look at what each individual family wants and respect those wishes.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, growing up, I watched the USSR and I watched China, and there was all this discussion about things being banned and censorship. That's not what the United States is. We're not going to ban books here. We shouldn't ban books here. What we have is, in a diverse society, in a diverse community like we have, we need books to be able to support the kids so that they see reflections of themselves on pages. There's all kinds of kids here. Now, maybe not every kid is going to read every book, and maybe some parents are uncomfortable with certain books, but we need to have books that reflect all of the kids in our schools here and all of the families in our schools here. That's how we keep them welcome, and that's how we keep everyone educated, and that's how we keep the conversation going.
Thank you. Cheryl?
We respect our teachers and our staff who look very carefully to curate the books that they use to meet the New York State learning standards. So all our books in the classrooms are geared to the learning standards that have been set up by the state. Our Curriculum and Instruction Committee looks at books, and especially at funding. So there are committees that are set up that look at new textbooks for math, new textbooks for science, new resources for ELA. And we see books as sources of empathy for our students, as mirrors, as windows, also sliding glass doors that students can see themselves in somebody else's place. When a parent has some discomfort with a book that's been selected, we work with them So we do, respect families, we respect their wishes as well, and we work when families really are uncomfortable with something. But we respect our teachers and our instructors to determine what books are appropriate.
Thank you. Salim?
I think the books, the authors that are used in all levels of school should be a reflection of the students that we actually teach. Going back to multiculturalism, going back to the diversity topics that we always mention, it should show not just one homogeneous idea, it should show different backgrounds, different ethnicities, so every child feels included. That's where it starts from the beginning. I think the White Plains School District does an excellent job of doing that and will continue to do so. As the demographics change, we'll meet those changes.
Thank you. The next question, begin with Charlie. Pick one controversial decision the board has made in the past and explain your position on that issue.
Yeah, over the last year, we had to go out for a new busing contract, a new transportation contract. And during that search and process, we determined that having a different start time, just a 30-minute different start time, and I don't mean just, I know that affects people, at Church Street, was a $2 million inefficiency. And we went out to the public, we sent out surveys, we listened, and ultimately it was the experts, Dr. Ann Vaccaro-Teich and all, who determined that, and the board supported this, that we need to support program. And if there's a $2 million inefficiency, we can't hang that on the backs of other people. So we made the decision, and I understand some people are unhappy about that, some of the families at Church Street, and I respect that, but it was a $2 million hole. And from a financial standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint, we needed to make the change.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Yeah, so same decision. And it was very, very difficult. We put a lot of thought, a lot of effort, and really looked at what alternatives we could possibly provide in our budget to see if we could make the Church Street early start time work. We had done an audit of our transportation. The auditors, in fact, said it was an inefficiency. And I've been to school board meetings in other districts in my New York State role. And in fact, they're going through similar kinds of problems as well, but in a very untimely way. We tried to give a year's worth of runway so that we were already contemplating this, concerned about the effect that it would have on Church Street families, and really looked very carefully at what the alternatives were, what we would have to cut in our budget, in our programs, or the taxes that would have to be added. We had a lot of controversy in the community because other families in other schools were concerned that there was an added benefit, unfortunately, that would be $2.1 million to Church Street.
Thank you. Salim?
It's the same Church Street controversy that's been the hot topic over the past couple of years. The reality is you can't necessarily please everyone, but in a democracy you have to work together to move forward. Now, that doesn't sound like a hard statement, especially when it comes to people who are affected. So I would also propose maybe help for those families, at least for a couple of years if they need to be able to make those adjustments, if that's possible. I don't know if that's in our budget, but that's something to be explored. But that being said, you can actually still have changes and controversy, still be able to move forward as a group.
Thank you.
I
Julia?
respect that the Church Street time change had to happen. I understand the budget implications. Hearing Cheryl and Charlie speak tonight, it's the first time I've ever heard their point of view on it, despite asking several times. So I'm happy to actually hear your point of view finally. The issue that I had with it and continue to have with it was that we were not given the courtesy of being told what were the other things that could potentially be cut. It was just vague kind of fear-mongering of these other services, these other programs. We asked for examples, we never got those, and that was a big issue. This is going to have long-standing implications on families, and I'm glad you corrected yourself. It's not just a 30-minute difference, it's a huge difference, and I'm worried about Church Street and the families that I care deeply about who go there.
Thank you. The next,
Can I do a?
You have a rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do want to say.
30 seconds.
Yep. that, in fact, there were people, and we had the opportunity, in fact, to hear from school board members and how concerned we were, and that we did give a year's runway. We worked with the Youth Bureau and other groups to ensure that there would be early morning early morning care for students. This is, true of all the schools in our district. We have families who work and need, childcare in the morning and also, after school.
Thank you. Julia, did you answer this question yet?
I did,
You did,
yes.
okay. So the next question, we're going to start with Cheryl. What strategies should the board use to promote sustainability and environmental stewardship?
So we do recycling. Our students, in fact, we have some new courses that are coming up having to do with sustainability, having to do with climate change. So it's part of our curriculum, and it's part of, our operations and facilities, whether it's, green, green operations that we have here, in terms of how we're building, the new building, that there's going to be, again, sustainability. We are looking at, we're air conditioning all our buildings in response to the climate change that's happening, but we're doing it in as energy efficient way as possible. We have an energy audit, in fact, that's going on, and through NYSERDA, we were given a grant, and we have an energy manager who is going to be helping us manage our energy in this school district.
Thank you. Salim?
Sustainability is very important. For one idea would be like looking into solar power, which I think Cheryl's alluding to. I think the board's already looking into that. Having ideas of where you can be more engaging with recycling, solar power, powering our schools, for example. These are just small steps towards a bigger goal. Our children are much more aware of the earth and of climate change than even my generation would be, let's say. And that's very good because it's their future, it's for them to enjoy, so we have to make it as best as possible towards them.
Thank you. Julia?
I'm happy to hear that White Plains is doing so much. I think that it's really important that our students hear about the importance of taking care of our earth every day. As mentioned, I do think they're more cognizant of it than perhaps many of us were. I think it's wonderful to hear that there is the option of maybe putting up solar panels. I think that could make a huge difference, and I hope that comes to fruition. I think it needs to be embedded in the curriculum so students really understand what could happen in the future. I think media gives a lot of mixed messaging, so I think it's important that we set the standard for what reality is as far as that goes.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, we've been thinking about that for a long time in White Plains. So when we built the new Post Road School, we put in, I think it's 63 geothermal wells. So they actually brings up air that's 55 degrees. So you have to heat less in the winter, and you can cool things down when it's cold. We had electric buses before anyone else did. We had the energy audit. We changed all the lights in the school district so that, well, not only just the lights that are on, but when people walk out of rooms, they turn off. That's important. And then we do have the new classes that are coming online in the high school about the environment, about climate change. So, and we do a lot of recycling, as everyone else said. So that's what we're doing, and we will continue to plan and make ourselves sustainable. And it's also the way that we budget. We budget looking 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road. We don't kick the can down the road. So if you look at what's happening in New Rochelle, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm done. The stop sign came.
Okay. The next question, we're going to begin with Salim. In what ways should the district address hate symbols or speech in our schools or on school property?
I think we should be very strong addressing hate because there's no place for hate anywhere in our schools. I'll just speak for our schools ourselves because, again, when you have ignorance, preconceived notions, that is a detriment for our children and for our future because only we'll hurt ourselves. If you hurt yourself, you're not going to grow anywhere, you're not going to thrive. So we should be very strong and quite harsh on when it comes to any known and understood hate crime. Thank you.
Julia?
I think there should absolutely be no tolerance. I think anytime there's anything where there's any kind of hate crime that needs to be investigated immediately, nothing should be brushed off. If a parent calls the superintendent or whomever else, that needs to be investigated fully and looked into, and every case needs to be taken seriously. I also think we really need to then also navigate working with the student who did the hate crime. Why did they do it? We can't just leave them to the wayside. We need to make sure that they're spoken to and we make sure they're okay. And people will say that's, at the end of the day, they're a child. So we also need to make sure that we offer them resources. But no student should ever be made to feel less than or unsafe in our schools, and there should be absolutely no tolerance for anything like that.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, and I think Cheryl did at the beginning, we are again a high school that hate has no home here. So that's something that's very important. It's embedded in our culture. A couple of years ago, we had a traveling exhibit that came to the high school and it came to the middle schools, where students came in and learned about the Holocaust. And they could actually, using AI, speak to a Holocaust survivor and to a prison guard in a camp, and it was almost seamless. You could ask them questions, and students from all over the district and from the community were able to come in. We also need to make these teachable moments. Hate messages, things, swastikas put on desks, they are all reported, but we need to make these teachable moments to help not only that child, but the community understand who we are.
Thank you. Cheryl?
As I mentioned earlier, the high school was designated again a no place for hate. We consider these kinds of actions to be also learning opportunities and believe in restorative justice. We want to make sure that if there are times when our students have been subjected to hate symbols, for example, that our students learn from them, that there are conversations, that there are discussions that take place in class. We had a traveling exhibit in the middle school, the Museum of Tolerance and Museum of Human Rights. We had guest speaker come actually to the high school in January to talk about human rights. Joe Ricca, our superintendent, talked to a conference on human rights and hate symbols, and the Westchester Jewish Council is actually going to be sending a rabbi to come here to talk to our students as well. The common circles that Charlie alluded to also had to do with identity and our students learning about themselves and then how they see others, as well as genocide. We have human rights courses as well.
Thank you. Not your fault. The next question, we're going to begin with Julia. What skills or traits will allow you to contribute to effective operations of the school board?
Sure. Well, I mentioned it in my opening statement. My background is in grant development, and a big piece of that is developing large-scale budgets. I've written many government grants, and the budgets that I required are quite detailed. I feel confident that I can bring that skill set to the school board, really looking at our budgets and having real conversations about where our money is going and asking the important questions. So I look forward to doing that. I've also worked in large institutions such as a large community college and the New York City Housing Authority, and I'm used to navigating a lot of different personalities and working with a lot of different people, and I have no doubt that I can bring that skill also to the school board.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, so 32 years in volunteering in the schools, PTA president, being on the Board of Ed. This is my 18th year on the Board of Ed. I'm not an educator. I don't know a whole lot about pedagogy, but I know what it looks like, and I'm very experienced now at sitting on this board and communicating with people in the community, communicating with administrators, communicating with teachers, and understanding where we need to go to support our students in the year 2025 and going forward. Many of the skills that they need or the jobs that they're going to be doing haven't even been invented yet. So how do we provide for them? How do we make them critical thinkers? That's something that I think about all the time, and how do we unlock 7,000 kids? and that's been my driving passion since I've been on the board.
Thank you. Cheryl?
So as an 18-year school board member, 30-year volunteer in our school district, I love the schools. I'm totally involved in every aspect of what we do here. I am committed to continuous improvement. I am committed to maximizing the potential of every single student here. I engage with the community. I've sent 4 children through our school district. I am collaborative. I engage in professional development as a school board member. I read journals. I read literature on education. I am a religious school teacher. I go to school board conferences. I'm part of the New York State School Boards Association Board of Directors. I am involved in BOCES as a member of their Board of Education as well. I am analytical, and I see things from multiple perspectives. I'm collaborative with my board members, and we work as a very effective team. Thank you.
Thank you. Salim?
I think my background of being a physician actually gives me an interesting angle on this, and I'll try to explain as to why. When you have a patient who comes into your office, and many of us can even relate to this, you want the physician to understand why you're there, in a way to nurture you, but also to listen to your concerns and give you an answer, and give you a solution as to what your problem is. I think that presents a different angle as to which I can provide for the school board, where I can listen, understand with the parents, with the teachers, with the administration. I don't have the benefit of the incumbency with my 2 neighbors to my right, but I can give you a fresh new perspective as far as understanding the people are concerned. In addition, the White Plains Public Safety Advisory Board, which I'm also privileged to be a part of, also brings the aspect of law enforcement into here. We all know, for better or for worse, the police have shown up in all different schools in our school district, whether they're engaging and teaching the young kids or whether they're just a part of the regular routine and patrol. Those 2 angles gives me a unique perspective that I think my colleagues don't have.
Thank you. So next question, we're going to begin with Charlie. What steps do you think our schools should be taking to meet the safe and effective integration of AI in teaching and learning?
So AI is a tool. It should not be something that we turn to instead of thinking, instead of critical thinking. But it's another tool that can be used by students, by staff, by faculty to plan curriculum and plan innovative and exciting ways of presenting information to our students. So AI is not something to run from, but we need to be careful how it's used and maybe need to take a look at some reports that kids might turn in that are like, wow. But again, it's just another tool that we need to harness and stay on top of, but utilize it to move our education forward.
Thank you. Cheryl?
We're already using AI in our school district in a really responsible way. Our teachers use it in the classrooms appropriately. There is professional learning that our teachers engage in and our staff engages in with Southern Westchester BOCES. I have seen presentations actually by one of our math teachers in the middle school who has used AI to customize and tailor work for students. That meets their needs, that sort of right fit for what they're looking for. It also can free up teacher time. So there are lots of routines, lots of sort of monotonous kinds of details that can almost be mechanized through AI that frees teachers up to really focus on their students. What we do need to teach is what's called prompts and edits. Those will prepare students to actually work with AI. Those are the important aspects of AI. I actually saw a presentation on an IEP that was developed that was a 17-page IEP that was spewed out in 60 seconds that was identified as better than anything this parent had ever seen before for their kid.
Thank you. Salim?
I think AI will kind of force us to be more critical as far as critical thinking is concerned, whether it's parents or teachers. And one of the things I remember in elementary school when my son was there was that the teachers really spend a lot of time with your son or daughter. So now that being said, these are more challenges and new challenges that teachers and educators face, and they're on the front, they're on the battleground, they're the front line. So the teachers will have to be very aware of how much AI will be used based on the class that they're teaching, and I think that will dictate as to how much AI can be used in the schools. It's not something to run from, as was mentioned before, but it's something to make sure you're a part of so you can make menial tasks easier and allow for more critical thinking and growth for the individual, the student themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia?
I agree. AI is something that we cannot run from. It's here. It's only going to continue to be here more so. I think we need to really take a step back and think about how our teachers are being supported during this transition. It's going to be challenging for them. It's already challenging to be a teacher, and I think it's only going to be that much more challenging. So as a district and as a board, I think we need to think about how we can support them more and more to kind of navigate this new terrain. I think also, too, we need to make sure, of course, that our students are still using their critical thinking skills. That's something just as a general person I have fear about, people not writing things on their own and them just having it be developed for them. I think even if it's not perfect, I think having people's real personal touches is important, and I'd like to see that continue in our classrooms. And I think, again, we need to work with our teachers and make sure they feel supported.
Thank you. I just want to tell you, this is the second to last question coming up.
Okay.
You're almost done. And we're going to begin with Cheryl. What are your thoughts about the district's response to national deportation threats?
So our district follows state law, and we have always followed the law. So what that means is that nobody can come into our schools and speak to our students unless they are have been designated by a parent as their, sort of custodian or their person in parental relationship. Unless there is a judicial warrant. I mean, we work with our attorneys, and but we've always protected our students that way. Before, issues with, executive orders or ICE or anything like that, nobody has access to our students unless they are legally allowed to have access to our students. If anyone shows up and tries to engage with our students or come into the buildings, the superintendent, Joe Ricca, gets called. He gets our attorney. We protect our students, and we are, everybody belongs here, and these are our students.
Thank you. Salim?
When it comes to following the law, we are definitely required to follow the law. That being said, we don't necessarily have to always agree with it. So what I think is a beautiful benefit of being a resident of New York State, and then on top of that, White Plains, is that we don't necessarily have to worry about, from a state level, to be concerned about the horrors that you might be thinking about when this kind of a question is posed. That being said, though, we still follow and make sure that each student is integrated, belongs here, is told, and their parents are told they do belong here to the best of our ability. The law is the law, but at the same time, we make sure we allow people to be included here in the White Plains schools.
Thank you. Julia?
Similarly, I feel we need to, of course, you have to follow the law. That goes without saying, and I'm glad to hear that White Plains is abiding by the law and making sure, keeping our students safe, not letting anyone come in who has not been designated to do so, to speak to a student. I'd like to see a beefing up of communication within the community and with families, letting them know about this. Where do they stand on things? I haven't seen a lot of communication around that. I think the district should be consistent about it. I also think it should be happening in our schools. Our students need to hear this firsthand. I can only imagine how scared they are when they hear about these raids happening, and I think we need to address that when it happens right away and say, we heard about this, we're here for you, you're safe. Students need to hear that a lot, and I think the more we repeat it, the better.
Thank you. Charlie?
Joe Rick, on behalf of the board and on behalf of the administration, has sent out messages saying that the school district will follow the law, and Governor Hochul has been pretty strong about what that law is. And very importantly, in 1982, the Supreme Court issued the ruling in Plyer versus Doe. And what that ruling says is that any child who lives in our district, regardless of their immigration status, is entitled to a free and appropriate education in any school district, but I'm talking about our school district. So we will, that's the law of the land. And again, you may not like it, or you may like it, but that's who we are here. And we've always welcomed people. And as Cheryl said, people can't just come walking into our schools. We will follow the law.
Thank you. This is the last question. Going to begin with Salim. What hasn't been asked tonight that you'd like to have a chance to speak about?
No, that's a good question. That's a really loaded question. And you gave me the first one, didn't you?
Yes.
We can all dance and skirt around the issues, mention pronouns versus nouns, and I'm not saying that kind of pronoun and noun. I'm mentioning not being specific on certain things, whether she did mention, of course, the Church Street controversy, other things as far as whether we agree to washing machines in elementary schools for children who are indigent. I've heard that floated also amongst parents who live in this school district. That might be a new one for you, but it's been out there for a while. We have to make sure, again, when you have forums like this, maybe it's a little more formal, maybe not everyone feels forthcoming and want to ask that, but when you have the ice cream socials, when you have the Slater Center gatherings, you have a basketball gathering there, then people will come up to you and ask you, and they'll feel comfortable doing so. And that's what we need to do, because if we don't, we're not going to listen to each and every parent. And that's the goal of all four of us here. We want to make sure every parent has a voice and gets listened to. We may not be able to accommodate everybody, but we'll do our best to make sure we can.
Thank you. Julia?
I want to say first and foremost, I think we've had a lot of well-rounded questions, so I think the community did a really great job, and the league for kind of putting those all together, so thank you. And this is not an attack at all. I have nothing but respect for Cheryl and Charlie and all of our board members who have been on the board for some time, around tenure and term. I think around, around term limits for board members. I think that's a reality that we need to look at as a board. I think that we run into the risk of putting too much of our information and people's leadership in the small group, and then what happens when they need to step away? People aren't ready to step up. And I think we need to really think about that and start bringing in new people and getting them integrated and make sure that we have people who have that institutional knowledge and a broad base of that.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot about diversity. Diversity is a very interesting and fascinating word. There are some people who are comfortable with it, and some people say, well, we're a diverse school system, but I don't want somebody living in my neighborhood. We are diverse, and I think that we need to have the conversations that we need to have as a community with the mayor, and on that side, talk about who we are and who we're evolving into, because it's okay. I'm just a second-generation American. My grandparents didn't speak English. So that's what this country is. And we need to be that. And White Plains has been that. And it can't just be some place that realtors say, well, the houses are a little more affordable here, or the property taxes aren't as expensive here, so you could live here. We are White Plains, and we are diverse, and I'm really proud of that, and that's why we live here, and that's who we are. We need to talk about that.
Thank you. So, I'm sorry. Cheryl?
I've been writing furiously.
Okay.
Okay, so.
I was so anxious to get to the end.
Thank
so.
you. So I am going to mention universal free meals for all our students, which, and there have been great questions. This is something we're really proud of here in White Plains. We have always run our own food service. We don't outsource it, and the people who work here are often our community members, which is really fabulous that we have that community engagement and interaction. I read an article very recently about the history of school lunches, and somebody referred to back in the 40s about eating democracy. And the idea that there is a level playing field when all our students can come into school and have free breakfast and free lunch, it frees up paperwork, there's no stigma attached, every student can be nourished, ready to learn, and it also provides learning opportunities for our kids. They get to vote on foods, we have diverse kinds of food, culturally diverse offerings, and it's a form of student engagement and student voice.
Thank you. I think that's it. We're now going to have the closing statements. They're going to be given in reverse order of the opening statements. So we will begin with Julia. You have 1 minute.
Once again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum. The fact that you all do this voluntarily is incredible, and I thank you so much. I appreciate having the opportunity to share some of my points of view on what the district is doing well and where I believe there are opportunities for improvement. It would be my privilege to serve on the Board of Education, and if elected, I will commit myself fully to this role with a focus on ensuring our children with the best education possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Salim.
I think the multiculturalism here in our school is our strength. We're going to make sure we continue to do so, embrace that, and meet the challenges as we move forward. Again, I've had the privilege of being a resident of White Plains for so long, and I want to make sure White Plains School is not just a school district, it's a destination. When people say that, oh, I want to go live here because it has, it's a mini Manhattan, it has fancy high-rises, Mr. Capelli this, it should be that White Plains School is an excellent school for my child. That should be the reason why we sit here today, and I want to continue to make sure we continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl.
Thank you, Ellen Cass, Beth Cava, Sheila Miller-Burnson, and the League of Women Voters. These past 18 years have provided exciting opportunities and challenges for our district. Expanding instructional programs, operations, and supports, improving infrastructure, free meals, elevating student voice, adding student board members, dual language, equity-focused technology advances, AI, security, increased academic achievement. I'm proud to be part of our governance team dedicated to unlocking the infinite and unique potential of each student every day. A quote from Theodore Roosevelt describes how I view my school board service. Far and away, the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. I attend district activities, serve with integrity and empathy, ask hard questions, examine issues from multiple perspectives with children at the front and center. My love of learning and commitment to staying current and looking ahead keep me open to new ideas and approaches, while my many years of involvement with our district keep me grounded in our history and will ensure stability. Please reach out to me with any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Charlie.
I would also like to thank everyone who's sitting here tonight. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the people in the audience, and the folks at home. So, two great marks of a society are how we treat our elderly, take care of them, and how we educate our kids. And we can't think of education as when I was in kindergarten or going back that far. This is the year 2025. Our kids are in competition, not with kids only in this country or the neighboring towns, but across the globe. And we need to expand our thoughts about what education is, what it looks like, and we're doing that in White Plains. There's a constant reevaluation of curriculum, the technology, the new building that's going to be opening up. We're moving forward, and we need to move forward. And it can be a little challenging, but as I always say to my spin students, unless you get uncomfortable every now and then, nothing grows and nothing changes. And change is the only constant in the universe. So we can either ride the wave or you sink. So I ride the wave, and I'd like to continue to serve on this board.
Thank you. You have to hold your applause just for a couple of minutes. This concludes the forum for this evening. Thank you to all the candidates, the audience, and the League of Women Voters of White Plains for organizing this evening's event. Remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. We encourage everyone to go out and vote, and I'd like to reintroduce Alan.
Many folks worked together to make tonight's candidate forum possible. The thanks go to the White Plains Public Schools for preparing the venue for tonight, the White Plains Public School media, the candidates for their willingness to serve in public service, our moderator, Sheila, and to our League of Women Voters of White Plains team who put tonight's forum together, and of course to all of you. Here are some get out the vote reminders. The school board budget election is coming up on Tuesday, May 20th. The White Plains mayoral primary candidate forum will be on Thursday, May 22nd, 7 to 8 at the White Plains Public Library. The White Plains mayoral primary election is on Tuesday, June 24th. And if you need more information about anything regarding candidates and the elections and deadlines, please consult vote411.org. Lastly, a recording of this candidate forum will be broadcast once again on Optimum Channel 77 and Verizon Channel 46. It'll also be posted on the White Plains Board of Education website. And now that concludes our candidate forum for the evening. Good night.